The video that I watched 48 hours ago completely wrecked my curriculum plans for next year, and now I'm rethinking it and starting over. Hey friends, early morning video that I'm filming today. Very off the cuff, no script, nothing. This is just me chatting right now. So the other day, Generations did a literature video, and Israel Wayne was there, Kevin Swanson was there, they had another speaker there, and they were all talking about literature, different authors, how to know what books to give your kids. And I had already picked out my literature units for my kids. Like, I already knew exactly what we were gonna do for both grade 12 and 8. And now it's like a bomb exploded all over those plans. I don't even know what analogy to use at this point, but I mean, that video was probably one of the most informative videos for me as a homeschooling parent and as a former educator. So one of the things that Kevin Swanson was talking about was these classic authors. And that topic is what really just made all my plans implode, because both of my kids were going to go heavy into some classics. And I have come to realize that just because something is a classic does not make it good. And it pains me as a former educator, as somebody who educates her children, and just as a reader, as someone who loves literature. It just pains me to say that, but it's true. And he proved the point again and again and again because he's so knowledgeable about these writers. And the three particular ones are Nathaniel Hawthorne, Mark Twain, and William Shakespeare. Now, I will be the first to admit, I didn't know anything about the backgrounds of these three people, of these three men. Now that I do, I want to take out everything on my shelves from these men, and I want to burn it. I can't believe I ever had these in my house. Now, to be fair, my kids have read a couple of these things. Like, I know my youngest has already read Mark Twain. I know my oldest has read a couple of Shakespeare books, nothing major, which was why we were going to majorly study Shakespeare in this next coming year, his last year in homeschooling. But now that I know about these men, and he was talking about this book, I'm going to show it to you. Hold on one second. So Kevin Swanson wrote this book called Apostate, and he was referencing this book when talking about these authors. And after the video, where he kind of outlines what these men are about, what their worldviews are, and just how dark these men are and how it comes through in their writing, I cracked open this book and I just started reading the chapters on them, and my mind was just like I could not believe, you guys, I could not believe. The only people that would understand is fellow Christian educators like yourselves. Part of me was outraged. Another part of me was just stunned. I just could not believe how terrible these authors are. Kevin Swanson refers to them as the men who destroyed the Christian West, and he's completely right. And when you start reading about these men and you start making the connections through their writing, their worldview is horrible. So what am I gonna do now? Okay, it's okay, I have a plan, and luckily everything was already on my shelf because I'm one of those people who buys stuff when it's on sale and then just saves it for a rainy day. That came to play in my favor this time around. And I also figured out that I'm still in the 30-day window for the other stuff. So what I can do is just pack that up and send it back. Generations has a 4-step approach to literature, which is something that I really like and that I align with. And my husband and I were like, this is the way. This is definitely the way. And I'm gonna outline this 4-step process for you. I have it here in my notes that I'm reading. So it's these 4 phases that they go through when they're going through the Generations curriculum. And honestly, I think this is the best way. And this is really what we've done, even though we haven't used Generations from the very beginning. This is essentially what we have done. So it doesn't really make it too difficult for me at all, even with my youngest, because I mean, he's been using Generations for a couple years now. And this is what we've done just with other curriculums. So I'm really glad that at least we have this under our belt with literature. So phase 1 is teach your children how to read so they can read God's word. So basically phonics. You're going to start with phonics. And you know, that's exactly what we did. And they have phonics things over at Generations that you can get to. They have a new kindergarten program over there, so you can get kindergarten curriculum, and that's where you're going to start with letters and sounds and the basic building blocks of how to read. The next step, phase 2, is etch the storyline of scripture in your children's memory with the God's Big Story series. Now this is one that we didn't do. We didn't do God's Big Story because I didn't know that Generations was around back then, so I didn't have God's Big Story, but everyone that I know that has used it has just raved about God's Big Story. So according to their website, it says that God's Big Story leads children through the big picture narrative of God's redemptive work from beginning to end. And instead of learning to read with Dick and Jane, they'll learn with the stories of Noah, David, Elijah, and Peter. So the next phase, phase 3, is where I'm at with my youngest child, and that is introduce your students to great Christian classics, and that's grades 6 through 11. And that's where my kids have been for most of our time. And that's with those beautiful classic books that I show you guys all the time from Generations, those beautiful Christian classic books. They're hardback. They look like they go into this big collection. I mean, they're just some of my very favorite books. And these are just one-of-a-kind keepsakes, really, for your bookshelf. I love these books. You can get everything from John Knox to Polycarp to Stepping Heavenward, which is one of my very favorite books. There's so many things in here that you can get, and they're always adding new ones. I just saw a new one the other day. Now, this is what Kevin Swanson was talking about when he was talking about counterfeit money. He said, you really need to learn what the real thing is so you can spot the counterfeit later. And I love that approach that he was taking to literature, how we need to show them good books so they'll be able to understand what bad literature is later on. So you start with fundamental building blocks with good literature, and the books with Generations, they are just solid books. And then the last step, which is phase 4, which is where I'm going into with my my oldest child, is send your kids into the worldview battle with great non-Christian classics, grades 10 through 12. And really, this one is meant for grade 12, 12th grade. And that is this book here, Worldviews in Conflict. Now, this one is still introducing Nathaniel Hawthorne and Mark Twain and William Shakespeare. However, Kevin Swanson is going to take your child, and you, if you're going to do this with your kids, you're going to go through it with a biblical lens, and you're going to understand the problems with these authors and the problems with this literature. And I think this is really important before they enter college, because trust me, I know in college they are going to reread all of that stuff. And a lot of times it's going to be glorified, unless you're going to a Christian school. And even in a Christian school, a lot of times you'll find that these authors are glorified and romanticized. And, you know, I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt. Maybe they don't know the background of these authors. Maybe they don't, you know, have any idea. Maybe they just think that because it's classic, it's good. I think a lot of teachers are that way. I know I was that way. So, you know, I'm giving grace in that department. But when you know, you know. So make sure your kids know, arm them with the knowledge of the backgrounds of these authors and why they wrote some of the things they wrote. It's very, very eye-opening as an educator, as a mom, as a Christian. It's very eye-opening. I will be taking out all of their books from our shelves. And I'm going to leave this one because, you know, it's not that we don't read these authors. It's how we read these authors and why we're reading them and the lens and the worldview that we're looking at them with. So, really important book. And all moms, regardless of whether or not your kids are in high school or elementary school, I highly recommend picking up this book. And you know, I know a lot of people are going to think that this is just so over dramatic and that I am making a big deal out of nothing. No, I am not. These are rooted in biblical truth, and the things that I want my children to learn, I want them to learn biblical truth, and I want them to know who these people actually are. And you can look it up all over the place. This is exactly who these people are. It's just not really talked about or not widely known. And I know that secular people who watch this video are going to tear me up in the comments because they don't get it. That's okay. This video is not for you. This video is for my fellow Christians. So, fellow Christians, get the book Apostate. I will leave the link down below in the description box for this. And I will try to reference the video if I am allowed to from Generations down below too. I highly recommend go watch that webcast. It was free. I sign up for all the webcasts that they do because they're always free, and I put out like an alert on my social media and stuff when they have another webcast. It's always free. You just, you know, put in your email and you get the Zoom link. And then you get a replay later on too. And I watched the replay even because I was like, I need to listen to this again. And I kind of took notes. My husband and I listened to it together, and we were just blown away by this information. So that nice little unboxing video that I did, I'm going to be returning a lot of that, and I might keep a couple of them, but I'm going to be returning most of the stuff from that unboxing video, and I have new plans. And you will see that in my curriculum reveal video coming up very soon. I'm waiting on a couple more things. I bought some things that had to be shipped. They were new items that were set to ship later on. So I'm actually waiting on those to arrive. One of them will be arriving today. One arrived yesterday. They're like staggering. They're coming in. It's just they're coming a little slow. So I'm getting that. I know I feel like I'm super late with my like big curriculum reveal videos, but I really wanted to take care in selecting things this year because this is the last year that I'm going to be homeschooling my oldest child. He's going into 12th grade, and I really slowed down and took extra care picking his curriculum this year because this is his last year. And you know, I want to make sure that things are impactful, things, you know, are memorable, and that he's happy and we're happy with everything too. So, okay guys, that's it for this video. I am gonna shut this off and get to work on my finalized list of curriculum today and update transcripts and all that kind of stuff. So I will see you in the next video. I hope y'all have a great rest of your day and happy homeschooling.